Hey, John Gilroy here. The next company in the studio annually interfaces with 1 in 3 Americans through its government work. Any guesses who that might be? Bueller? Bueller? Hit the music, Manny. Welcome to the Federal Tech Podcast, a podcast that connects you to federal technology leaders. My name is John Gilroy, and I will be your moderator. Our guest today is Derek Pledger. He is the Chief Digital and Information Officer at a company called Maximus, Maximus. Derek, that fun fact's hard to believe, isn't it? 1 in 3, is that true?
That's absolutely true. 110 American citizens every single year, John.
Well, I bet if you went to a conference and walked up to 110 people, they sure wouldn't know that, would they?
Absolutely not. Like, there's this running joke that we're one of the largest companies that people have no idea who we are. So one of my mandates is to change that every single day.
Well, that's why you're on Federal Tech Podcast, to reach out to the federal audience. As you probably know, my listeners know, I bring in companies and say, okay, what's the magic sauce? What differentiates from other? But I think we got a big differentiator here. And I think that's the open. The open is interfaces. And so it seems that Maximus has got a strong reputation over the years of coming up with a seamless, personalized government user experience. So you interact with all those citizens and improve their experience, which is really important. So how does Maximus do it, and what's the best practice for improving a federal website?
Yeah, well, how much time you got for that question? At our core, Maximus is really a strategic partner to governments in the delivery of citizen services, healthcare programs, and mission capabilities. And that's really on a global scale. As a tech company, though, we leverage all the goodies, automation, AI, analytics, and predictive insight to make sure that citizens and customers we interact with have a world-class digital and consumer experience. So for us, we start with, what does a world-class experience look like for a citizen that's trying to enroll in Medicaid or Medicare? What does a world-class experience look like for a veteran that needs to get through a veteran's benefits process? So we start with the end in mind, and then try to design a technology and ecosystems that we can deliver on that promise. Considering technology changes, it's ephemeral. What's good today will be crap tomorrow. So we really start with the end in mind. And I think that's what differentiates us from a user experience perspective.
Okay, let's say we have a veteran who maybe had an injury and has to go to the VA and process a claim, let's just say that. So how would Maximus, take a snapshot of that situation? How would they find the gaps in the whole process?
So that's a great question, because I am a use case in it.
Well, right? I stumbled on that one, huh?
Right, because I'm retired Army. I got injured in Iraq in 2008. So I can tell you firsthand, there is friction in the process. And the friction a lot of times is caused by, could be bureaucracy, it could be a lot of paperwork. At least for me, the average case for a veteran, at least when I went through, was probably 300 to 400 days. And that's doing veterans a disservice, especially those who serve the country or has been to war multiple times like I have. So for us, what we've tried to do, and the process now averages about 200 to 270 days, but that's still way too long. So what we're trying to do is really address the technology friction within that process, because right now we're using AI to the extent that you don't need a human looking at a bunch of different paperwork in a medical file that may have thousands of pages. So the technical part is something that we can address, but there's other friction, which is the cultural piece, where a veteran may not be accustomed to doing a visit that is virtual, as opposed to going to a VA medical center or things like that. So there's a component of this that is cultural, that we're trying to move the cultural change at the same pace as the technology change. So there's friction all over the place. What we're trying to do is attack the places that we can control as Maximus in partnership with the government. And that has started to pay dividends in terms of better experiences. So a veteran, we want to do omni-channel outreach versus waiting for a veteran to make a call to us. We will call a veteran and say, hey, don't forget about your appointment, or send a text message, or allow them to enroll in a specific benefit via an app or a website instead of making phone calls. So it's really, we're focusing on how do you create a digital experience or channels that allows you to move friction from the process.
Now we talk about auto repair. When I was in college 100 years ago, I had old cars and it was broken down. You have to take them in and get someone to fix it. And I hated we think we think it could be, and then it's a waste of time. And so some people call this first contact resolution. So let's take a silly concept and apply it to a veteran who wants to resolve a problem. And I don't know what problem it is. So what is the key? What's the, what I say, magic sauce to the first contact resolution and citizen satisfaction?
I think the key is really data. One of the main friction points is if a veteran is calling to get a benefit or needs to solve something on first contact, that individual that you're talking to must have access to data that's focused on that particular veteran. And I can tell you from experience that typically a medical file or a dossier that's built on a particular person is spread across multiple different databases and multiple different agencies. You could have a veteran that served in the Air Force, but he was also in the Army, but then he was a DoD civilian. So really our challenge from a technology perspective is how do you make sure that you can access data that will drive an effective decision for that veteran? So the way that we would solve for that is a veteran would call, say, hey, I really need to do X thing. And I really would like a decision within 30 days. The old way is take that and we do it like it was a stone. And you just go to each of the agencies, get that information, get a dossier, put it all together, try to do some analysis, and then come back to that veteran with a solution. And it would never happen within 30 days. Now, because things are much more API driven, we can use technology to go out and interrogate those different databases, build a dossier that someone can actually, without an individual that has to do that manually, then you're able to do something a bit more quicker, a bit more effective to get a veteran an answer. So there's a lot of different examples of how that can manifest itself. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to remove from the process is anything that is manual. Now, decisions specifically on should a veteran get a benefit or not? That's not what we're asking technology to do. A clinician should do that or someone at the VA. But what we do need to do is make sure that we're leveraging technology in a way that allows you to have all the information that will give you the ability to make an effective decision. However, this is very complex, so we can't allow AI to make decisions on behalf of veterans. What we allow AI to do is to create the conditions such that a human has everything that they need to make an effective decision.
Back to cars. I once had a car with 200,000 miles on it and I had to put a clutch in it. So I drove it to the mechanic and 2 days later I got it out. Okay. We have federal websites that may have 200,000 miles on them and need to be improved. Okay.
Sure.
And so what you have a situation here is that you have to modernize legacy situations while at the same time, maintaining service to the customer and maybe improving service. So this is a push-pull here is that, okay, we've got a website at an agency. They've got some gaps. We have to improve them, but you have to improve them during the process. So this is, I think this bumps up the whole degree of difficulty here, doesn't it?
Yeah, so that's an interesting use case that you're talking about, because I want you to think about in the next 5 years how that interaction with a veteran or a citizen will change. It's not going to be a website anymore. I think, and I'm going on a limb here, websites will become obsolete because it will be voice driven. So in an era of generative AI, instead of going in and typing information on 5 pages of a website to be able to create something, you'll be able to interact via chat or via voice and do it all via voice. You're not going to have to go enter information on a website. The challenge there will be make sure that you can verify identity. So you still may need to get a text message and put your last 4 of your social in it or something like that, or there's multiple ways that you can solve for that. But the way that we interact with websites today will be drastically different in 2030. And I think voice and other channels, mobile, will take over as the primary mechanism for interaction for citizen services. And that's not just in the federal government. I believe that will be at state governments also.
Well, podcasters like me sure like voice taking over. That'd be great.
It'd be good for you, John.
I think because I had this radio background, the phrase that pays, I think, is omni-channel is what you're referring to. And just yesterday, I had a gentleman contact me on LinkedIn, want to get on the show, and he said, send me information at this phone number. It wasn't email, it wasn't website, it was this phone number.
There you go.
And then, of course, people like you who are sophisticated can sent text messages through their voice. And so I think this Derek is like, well, there's an iceberg here somewhere, Derek, and something's going on here, and we see this transition. So rather as one way to do it, it's going to be omni way. Maybe older people like me want to do old-fashioned email, and younger people like you may want to text. And what your kids are going to want to do, who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe it's going to be,
we have to figure that out, John.
Maybe quantum communication, I don't know what, but it's going to change all the time. And so the question is how? So how are you helping agencies make this maybe at least psychological transmission to omni-channel?
Yeah, one of the things that's really important around omni-channel and what that actually means for federal government or contractors that deliver in the federal government is that the government has made a strategic shift to embracing commercial capabilities and speed to outcomes instead of, the traditional construct where you have a big prime, build a system over 3 or 5 years, which ostensibly becomes obsolete when it's delivered. Like we can't afford that anymore. So at Maximus, the way we view ourselves and what we're doing in practice is we're now a conduit to bringing commercial capabilities to our government customers with speed because we recognize that commercial capabilities in the area of data and AI can positively impact the government's mission in many areas. The challenge is that many companies out of Silicon Valley and other folks that may be on the commercial side of things, they don't understand the regulatory environment. For example, think of FedRAMP or CMMC or any of the other alphabet soup that you and I could talk about for hours. So because we've been operating in this space for 50 years, we use ourselves as an on-ramp to bring commercial capabilities to the government in a safe and effective manner. That way, government has the best of breed of technology via an organization that understands the complexity of public sector. So an example of that is we have an incredibly sophisticated technology partnership ecosystem. There's a lot of press out there about how we have partnerships with Salesforce and Genesys and other sort of large primes, large industry leaders. So, for instance, Genesys, it's a commercial company. It's almost $3 billion, and they have a phenomenal way to do telephony and interactions in an omni-channel fashion. But the FedRAMP environment, the public sector environment, some of those nuances they don't understand, or the protections around PAI or PHI. So we partner with companies like that so we can, because we understand the mission context and their problem sets, but then bringing Genesys in to be able to deliver from a telephony perspective into the VA, which we have already done, or into the state and local governments, allows us to bring that omni-channel experience without us building from ourselves. So speed to market, speed to outcome is really what we've created by developing a sophisticated ecosystem for us to be able to partner where it matters, but also keep the government's data safe because we understand the environment.
Derek, I'm a big fan of Salesforce. In fact, I'll be at their Salesforce event in late March on the floor recording. So come on by and throw tomatoes or marshmallows or question me or whatever. It's a lot of fun down there. There's so much interactions. It's always a lot of fun.
No doubt. I will be there. And Salesforce is another incredible partner of ours. The leadership at Salesforce, I'm pretty good friends with folks who lead public sector. And we have some large scale, nation scale deployments that we're doing on the Salesforce platform. So that's the same use case. There's a lot of things with Agentforce and what they're doing with AI that there would be no reason for us to try to rebuild or replicate that internally. So we're partnering with Salesforce specifically around some of the VA use cases that we talked about around veterans. We're using that platform to make that experience better, faster, more efficient. And then using some of the predictive analytics and the insights, which helps us to drive action on behalf of the government to be proactive as opposed to being reactive.
Back to the car. So, got a new clutch in my car, and I'm driving to Oklahoma.
Yes.
Many times. You got to go through Missouri, and Missouri, of course, is a show me state. And the license plates say show me. So, Derek, I turn to you and say, show me. Can you give me an example, maybe within the federal government somewhere, where you've improved the outcomes for the public by improving a website?
Sure. I mean, website is just one component of omni-channel. So let's take it past a website. Let's talk about mobile or outbound campaigns.
Yeah.
Something that's very basic that is a huge problem is that in some scenarios, if a veteran or an individual does not contact a particular government agency about renewing a benefit, say, for instance, they were supposed to renew by December 31st of 2025, and if you don't do it within 30 days, your benefits are going to be canceled. we have been relying on an individual user or a citizen to remember all of those dates. But people are busy, and the government recognizes now that you have to give folks a benefit of the doubt. It can't just be inbound. You talked about the push and pull earlier, John. So now what we've done using our total experience management solution, which is built on Genesis Cloud, Salesforce is a reference architecture that you can plug and play a lot of different capabilities. We run what we call outbound campaigns across multiple different channels. So we could have a text be sent to you, an email be sent to you within 30 days, within 2 weeks, anytime that we feel like we want to do so. That could be outbound. Now we're getting so sophisticated that we can essentially have an AI agent make that telephone call to you too, to say, hey, John, you have 2 weeks to your benefit. Your particular benefit is going to expire. If you would like to talk to a live agent to solve for this, press 1 now. Or that same text message will come through, or we can access you at different channels. No longer are we in a place where we can try to engage citizens through one particular channel. So that capability that we're talking about, TXM, is something that we're already fielding in multiple different places across the government, and it is paying dividends. And dividend to me means that the experience for the consumer is better. We have vast improvement in terms of lapse and benefits, because it's our job. Citizens earn these benefits, so we owe that to them. We're not, as a government, we're not doing them a favor. So if you think about Social Security or Medicaid, Medicare, those things are earned. So I think it's on us to make sure that we're doing outbound campaigns so we can take care of our citizenry.
I've talked to a lot of cybersecurity professionals, and the transition I see is this proactive, which is that's your approach. It's like, we're not going to wait until the veteran complains. We'll ask him ahead of time.
Yes.
Oh, we heard you moved to Oklahoma and you're in Purcell. Do you want to change this or that? Rather than, the day before the deadline, he calls Derek and you're pulling your hair out wondering, well, he should have called me 2 months ago. It would have been so much easier, Derek. This is, and I think this is another, I guess, a sentiment or wave I see coming is that, let's be proactive here, because now we're at the point where we can automate some of this, and AI puts Derek's ideas in work boots. So Derek says, I'm a veteran. I wish they would have told me that it expires on April 8th. But you say, well, we can do that automatically and possibly even, because you can reduce costs by doing it and reduce costs by eliminating that hair pulling out. And Derek, doesn't get much hair. You must have pulled all your hair out of the call center trying to solve these problems like that, huh?
Yeah, that's why I don't have hair now, John. You can see that. Yeah, absolutely. I lost that battle a long time ago.
Okay, crystal ball time. Gaze into the ball here. And it's always hard to look down the road. I saw the press release with you and Genesis, and I think that's very creative. It's like, if we can't draft a good defensive end, let's pick one up and partner with one.
Absolutely.
To develop something like that is very, very difficult to do. And I think partnering with that is good. So tell me where you see, Maximus heading here in the next 5 to 7 years. And just in general, we know it's going to be more omni.
Yes.
Tell me where you see it heading.
So a couple things. So I'll take you down 2 pathways. The first is, when you think about government delivery and everything that has happened with the Doge and any discourse around services that the federal government provides, the word that is always the through line is efficiency. We got to be more efficient. We have to save costs. We have to, cut costs, be more efficient. That's the through line. That's what everyone talks about. The challenge that we have at Maximus, at least our orientation, our thought process around that, is you can be incredibly efficient, but the effectiveness of your solutions can be terrible. So you can cut costs, be radically efficient, but then the experience that someone has that's interacting with your service or interacting with your solution is abysmal. And I think you still fail. You're efficient, but your effectiveness and your efficacy is awful. So I think that's a lose. So for us, we want to be efficient, but we also measure effectiveness within the context of how efficient we are. If we tilt the balance where we're incredibly efficient, but then effectiveness starts to lag, then we've made a mistake. And I think the government needs to adopt that mindset. Yes, about efficiency, but we also need to be effective too. Moving to the right of that, it's not just about being effective. If you think about us as Maximus interacting with 1 in 3 Americans every single year, our approach is, we're efficient, we're going to be effective, but also every time we have an interaction with a citizen, we're gaining insight, we're gaining data We're gaining telemetry from these folks, whether it be for problems, good things, bad things. We should be using those insights then to bring us to some form of action. So we're proactive as opposed to being reactive. So that is why we always start at the end in terms of what is it that we want to, what type of experience that we want to provide for a citizen or a customer. So let me give you an example of how that manifests itself in real life. In Texas, there was some dust up about measles some months back. I think it was all over the news. We should be in a position to be able to say, listen, we're being efficient. We're interacting with all these different citizens that are in Texas. We keep getting calls that are based on, this type of ailment or fevers or something that is very close to the signature of measles. Something's going on. Let's be proactive and try to go solve for this before it becomes a pandemic, right? Like, so the government, with COVID-19, we were incredibly reactive. We were not proactive, right? So I think that in and of itself, just focusing on efficiency does not allow you to do that. So you have to run through that spectrum, which is efficiency, effectiveness, getting insights from your interactions, and then being able to take action based on those insights, leveraging analytics and technology. So that's the orientation that Maximus has. Now, over the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to take that construct and keeping in mind, we talked about the strategic shift of the government. We now have a partnership with Goldman Sachs that will be announced here soon, where they have a public sector organization, public sector fund that's focused on bringing commercial capabilities to the public sector. So again, we are going to be the conduit to let's bring, whether it be AI, it could be quantum, it could be any of these companies that are within this fund. And these are some very advanced corporations. We want to be able to package those things up and bring those capabilities to the government so we can, again, make the interactions more effective. So when you think of Maximus 5 to 7 years from now, I would like, the public sector, the government to look at us as a technology company that is providing world-class digital experience, from being secure, but also the new things that are coming. We are a pipeline to be able to get that in the public sector's hands, because typically, John, the commercial sector is like 10 years ahead of the government, and adoption takes too long. So we want to turn that upside down, where if something comes out on the commercial side that bears fruit and could help, reimagine an experience for citizens, we want to be able to do that in months. So that's really what Maximus is going to be focused on. But at the end of the day, our mission of creating world-class experiences is never going to change. How we deliver it, more effective, faster, with more speed, with more efficacy may change, but our core mission will never change. And that's making sure that we can provide veterans with the right benefits, provide mission solutions to the government on the DoD side. It's just the way in which we do it and leveraging the full power of commercial, Silicon Valley, even global capabilities. We want to be known for that.
Good. And the result is a veteran in Texas gets his benefits that he deserved, he's earned. So that's going to summarize it. And the whole idea of being proactive to make sure that guy gets his benefits. That's a good story to tell, too. We're running out of time here, Derek. You have been listening to the Federal Tech Podcast with John Gilroy. I'd like to thank our guest, Derek Pledger. He is the Chief Digital and Information Officer at Maximus, Maximus. And I'll put a link to Maximus in the show notes. And if you want to get a hold of Derek, you can find him on LinkedIn. Easy to spell his last name, Pledger, and connect up and see where his next adventure takes him. Maybe India, maybe Bulgaria, who knows?
Yes, I'm in India 4 times a year, so my next trip is in February. And we have a lot of folks building some really cool things that we look forward to bringing to the public sector. So thanks for having me, John. Great conversation. Appreciate it.